If you have enjoyed looking and listening to my books, please consider liking and subscribing to my channel. Thank you. Disney's Winnie the Pooh and the Blustery Day, a Ladybird book, first published in 1992. Christopher Robin and Pooh. In the middle of the forest where the grown-ups never go, there is a special enchanted place called the 100-Acre Wood. This is where a young boy, Christopher Robin, lives with his very best friend, Winnie the Pooh, sometimes called Pooh Bear, or just Pooh for short. Christopher Robin and Pooh have lots of other friends too. There's Piglet, Kangaroo, Baby Roo, Tigger, Eeyore the donkey, Rabbit and Owl. They all have very happy times together as well as some remarkable adventures. The adventure you're going to hear about now began on a day that started like any other day, but soon turned into a most extraordinary day. One morning, Winnie the Pooh woke up to the sound of the wind howling round his house. He got out of bed and threw open a window. He said, I think I'll have to stroll to my thoughtful spot and have a good think. On his way, Pooh made up a little hum, and it hummed something like this. Hum, hum-de-dum-de-lum-de-dum, hum-dum. Oh, the wind is lashing lustily, and the trees are thrashing thrustily. The leaves are rustling gustily, so it's rather safe to say that it seems it may turn out to be. It feels that it will undoubtedly. It looks like a rather blustery day. Fortunately, Pooh's thoughtful spot was in a sheltered place, well out of the wind. He sat down on a log and tried hard to think of something. Think, 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 said Winnie the Pooh, tapping his head. Suddenly there was a rumbling at Pooh's feet, and a gopher's head appeared from an underground tunnel. Say, Sonny, said the gopher when he observed Pooh, tapping his head, do you have a headache? No, replied Pooh, I was just thinking. Well, if I were you, said Gopher, I'd think about getting out of here as soon as possible. Why? asked Pooh. Why? Repeated Gopher. Because it's Wednesday, that's why. And with these words he disappeared again down his burrow. Wednesday? Said Pooh. Well, in that case, I shall wish everyone a happy Wednesday. And I shall begin with my very dear friend, Piglet. Pooh visits Piglet. Piglet lived in a grand old house in a beech tree, with a sign in front of it that said, Trespassers Will. Piglet said that was short for Trespassers William, which had been his grandfather's name. The house had been in the family for a long time, and Piglet was very proud of it. That particular blustery morning, Piglet was outside his house, sweeping up the leaves that were swirling round his front door. Pooh waved to his little friend. Happy Wednesday, Piglet, he said cheerfully. Thank you, Pooh, said Piglet. All at once, a gust of wind caught him. But it isn't very happy for me, he called as he was swept high into the air. Pooh! Help! cried Piglet. Don't worry, I'll save you, shouted Pooh, reaching up to catch his friend. But all he caught was the end of Piglet's scarf, and that unravelled like a ball of string. Don't let go, Piglet, cried Pooh. Just then Kangaroo and Baby Roo came by. Look, Mama, look, said Roo. A kite. Oh, goodness, said Kangaroo. That's not a kite, it's Piglet. Roo clapped his hands in excitement. Can I fly Piglet next? He asked. But Pooh was too busy to answer. He dug his heels into the ground and held tightly to the end of the wool. Piglet clung to his end too, but the wind just blew harder, lifting him higher and higher. Just as Pooh gave the wool another tug, an especially strong gust of wind came along. It blew Pooh right off the ground and carried him along with Piglet. At last Pooh and Piglet landed in a treetop. Fortunately, it happened to be the treetop where Owl had his house. Owl was delighted to see his friends' faces pressed against the window. "Oh, Pooh and Piglet," he cried, "this is a surprise. Do come in and make yourselves comfortable." He opened the window and they blew in. "Happy Wednesday, Owl," said Pooh. "Oh, happy Wednesday to you too," said Owl. "It does seem to be rather a blustery day outside." "A very, very blustery day," said Piglet. "Still," said Owl, "this is just a mild breeze compared with the winter of 67, or was it 76, when my Aunt Clara was caught in a terrible gale. The wind was so fierce then that..." And Owl went on and on, talking about his relations so that nobody realized that his house had begun to shake. Backwards and forwards the house shook and swayed. Then, with one tremendous gust of wind, it came crashing to the ground. Luckily no one was hurt, but the house was a terrible mess. Eeyore makes a promise. As soon as Christopher Robin heard of the disaster, he came hurrying along to the scene of Owl's misfortune. "What a pity," said Christopher Robin, surveying the damage. "Don't think we'll be able to repair this." "If you ask me," said Eeyore, "when a house looks like this, it's time to find a new one." "What a good idea," said Christopher Robin. "Leave it to me," said Eeyore. "It might take a day or two, but I'll find a new house for Owl." And he turned and trudged off into the 100-acre wood. "Thank you, Eeyore," said Owl. "In the meantime, I can tell you all about my Uncle Clyde. He was a very independent barn owl who didn't give a hoot for tradition. He fell in love with a cat and went to sea in a beautiful pea-green boat. In fact, Pooh and Piglet sat listening to Owl's stories until it got dark, when they decided to go home. Owl, of course, no longer had a home, so he had to sleep in the branch of a tree. The stormy night. The blustery day turned into a stormy night. For Pooh, it was a very anxious sort of night, filled with anxious sort of noises such as he'd never heard before. "Is that you, Piglet?" Pooh cried. Came the reply. "Owl, are you out there?" Now, Pooh was not the bravest of bears, and he didn't like the new sound one bit. It seemed much too fierce. "I hope it's not a hostile animal," he said to himself. He tried calling out one more time, "Come in, Christopher Robin?" But the answer was still the same. Growl! Pooh hid his head under the bedclothes. Suddenly there was a very loud knocking at the door. Pooh, being a bear of very little brain, decided to invite the new sound in. He picked up his pop gun, crept to the door, and slowly opened it. Pooh meets Tigger. Whoosh! In bounced a stripy creature who knocked Pooh off his feet. "Hello, I'm Tigger," said the strange animal. "Goodness," gasped Pooh, "you scared me." "Of course I did. Everyone's scared of Tiggers. Who are you?" "I'm Pooh," said Pooh. "And what's a Pooh?" asked Tigger, bouncing on Pooh's stomach. You're sitting on one," said Pooh. "Oh, sorry," said Tigger, bouncing off. Suddenly, Tigger spotted a strange-looking creature in Pooh's mirror. "Who's that?" he asked. "Well, it looks like another Tigger to me," said Pooh. "Nonsense," said the Tigger. "I'm the only Tigger." He pulled a fierce face. "Just watch me scare the stripes off this impostor." But the other animals seemed to pull an even fiercer face. Tigger was terrified and he hid under the table. Pooh offered Tigger some honey to make him feel better, but Tigger didn't seem to like honey. "Yuck," he said, "this icky, sticky stuff is only fit for heffalumps and woozles." Pooh had never heard of heffalumps and woozles. "What do they do?" he asked Tigger. "Nothing much, just steal honey," cried Tigger, bouncing right out of Pooh's front door. Pooh could hardly believe his ears. If what Tigger had said about heffalumps and woozles was true, he would have to protect his honey. He picked up his pop gun and began to march. "March, march, march," he said as he standing as straight and as tall as he could. Suddenly, he caught sight of another bear carrying a pop gun marching straight towards him. "Oh, hello," said Pooh. The other bear didn't answer. "Am I glad to see you," Pooh went on. "It's so much more friendly with two. Now, you march that way, and I'll go this way." Pooh was so jittery he didn't realize he was talking to his own reflection in the mirror. He just went on marching, hour after hour after hour. At last, when he was too tired to stand up any longer, he flopped down, exhausted. The dream. While the wind blew and the rain came down outside, Winnie the Pooh sat beside his honey pots fast asleep. And while he slept, he dreamt a very peculiar dream. It was all about horrible heffalumps and wild woozles. Pooh dreamt of giant honey pots coming to warn him about the heffalumps and woozles. "Beware, beware, they're everywhere," chanted the honey pots, whirling around Pooh. Pooh began to feel quite dizzy, but still the honey pots sang their warning. "Heffalumps and woozles steal honey." Now Pooh had no idea what heffalumps and woozles actually looked like, but in his dream they were terrifying. Some of the woozles looked like huge jack-in-the-boxes with big noses. They stuck their tongues out and laughed at Pooh. And others were in the shape of giant balloons. The heffalumps came in all shapes and sizes. One was like a giant bumblebee with an elephant's head and feet. It chased Pooh and buzzed round his head, trying to grab his precious honey. Then a huge watering can overturned above Pooh. Pooh tried to escape, but he just got wetter until he woke with a start and saw that the water was real. It had rained all night and Pooh's house was filled with puddles. Of course, the first thing that Pooh did was try to rescue his honey, but he got his head stuck in one of the honey pots and he went floating helplessly out into the forest, his legs waving in the air. The rain had got into Piglet's house too, and Piglet woke to find himself in the midst of a flood. His bed and all his furniture was floating away, and the water was still rising. Piglet didn't know what to do, but he knew he needed help. So he found some paper and wrote a note that said, "Help, Piglet, me." He threw the note into a bottle and threw the bottle into the water. The water carried the bottle out of the forest, out of the house and away into the forest, and soon the water carried Piglet away too. By morning, nearly all of 100 Acre Wood was flooded, but the water didn't quite reach Christopher Robin's house, so that's where everybody gathered to shelter from the storm. Everyone, that is, except Eeyore. He stubbornly refused to stop searching for a new house for Owl. Meanwhile, Baby Roo had made an important discovery. "Look," he cried, "I found a bottle, and there's a message inside." Christopher Robin took out the note and read it. "We have to rescue Piglet right away," said Christopher Robin. "Owl, you go and find him and tell him we're coming." Owl set off at once and soon he saw two tiny objects below him. As he flew closer, he saw that the objects were Pooh, hanging on a chair, and Piglet spinning in the whirlpool in one of Pooh's honey pots. "Don't worry, you two," cried Owl. "Help is on its way." A hero's party. Before long, Pooh, Owl and Piglet had drifted all the way to Christopher Robin's house. Christopher Robin was overjoyed to see Pooh, and then he saw that Piglet was safe and sound in Pooh's honey pot. "Pooh, you rescued Piglet," said Christopher Robin. "You're a hero." "I am?" said Pooh, a little uncertainly. "Yes," said Christopher Robin, "and as soon as the flood is over, I shall give you a hero's party." And so when at last the 100-acre had dried out, Christopher Robin gave Pooh his hero's party. In the middle of all the excitement, Eeyore appeared and made an announcement. "I found it," he said. "Found what, Eeyore?" asked Christopher Robin. "Owl's new house." Everyone followed Eeyore through the forest, eager to see what he had found. Much to their surprise, he stopped right in front of Piglet's house. Why have we stopped here, Eeyore?" asked Christopher Robin. "This is it. Owl's new house. It even has Owl's name in the front. W-O-O." "So it does," said Owl, delighted. "Well done, Eeyore. It's an excellent house. Don't you think so, everyone?" "It's a very nice house indeed," said Christopher Robin. "The only thing, Eeyore, is that it's the best house in the world," Piglet blurted out. "And it's just right for our good friend Owl. I'll hope he'll be very happy in it." No one but Pooh noticed the tiny tear that rolled down Piglet's cheek. "But Piglet," said Christopher Robin, "where will you live now?" "I guess I shall live," Piglet began. "I suppose I shall live—" "You'll come and live with me, won't you, Piglet?" "Why, yes, Pooh," said Piglet happily. "Thank you. I should love to." "And now we have two heroes," said Christopher Robin. "Pooh is a hero for saving Piglet, and Piglet is a hero for giving his house to Owl. So let's make our one hero party a two-hero party." Everyone thought that was a splendid idea. Christopher Robin got his drum and led everyone to a joyful parade back to his house. It was a wonderful party with games to play and good things to eat and drink. There were extra pots of honey for Pooh and 4 big helpings of acorns for Piglet. That wasn't another blustery day in the 100-acre wood for a long time, but Christopher Robin, Winnie the Pooh and their friends had many more adventures that you can read about. Grown-ups think all these stories are make-believe and that Christopher Robin's friends are just stuffed toys. But you and I know better, don't we? Of course we do. As sure as there's a 100-acre wood.